The Island. The very first map of Ark until this day proves to be one of the most difficult maps this game has to offer. However, this time some things are different. All over this island, numerous new modded creatures started to not only appear, but also adapt and conquer this very familiar landmass. From friendly beach dwellers to territorial titans, vicious carnivores, mythical monsters, and even smaller versions of the bosses themselves. My name is Ark and I have 100 days to survive this island, beat all 3 guardians on beta difficulty and perhaps reaching beta ascension as well. With single player settings turned off and hardcore mode enabled, this will be one heck of a ride. I hope you all enjoy watching my very first 100 day video, and without any further ado, let's jump right into this modded adventure. I started my first day like any other Ark survivor, butt naked and with an itching object stuck in my wrist. Honestly, I shouldn't even be able to move my fingers with that thing stuck in my arm. After I stopped scratching my arm, I started to get stone, I punched some trees and also picked some fiber, you know, the normal Ark stuff. Then made myself some basic tools and gathered even more resources. But after some short time I spotted a Sarco nearby, so I decided to go over to the so-called Stonehenge area to be safe. I safely arrived at the other side. I then made myself a spear, and after some walking around I actually found an explorer node, but I didn't open it yet. And well, then I actually killed my first dodo. I gathered enough stuff to make cloth gear, a bow and arrows, and killed more stuff. Made a thatched foundation and placed it alongside a modern pestle as well as a campfire to keep me warm. Then killed more dodos near the end of my first day. During the night I expanded my base a little bit, gathered enough materials to make a forge and a storage box as well. Gathered more metal from these small rock piles that for some reason give you a good amount of metal actually. Then made a smithy and a metal pickaxe. I decided to look for an early game berry harvester, and after some time I spotted a very low Ceantosaurus. I'm pretty sure this is how you pronounce it. But hey, you can't be picky early on, so I tamed him up and named him Timmy. After I jumped on him I saw a Arizonasaurus. Timmy was pretty weak, so I turned and ran away, but he has the ability to run even faster once he spotted a dangerous critter. I then used Timmy to gather a good amount of berries. I made myself a crossbow, ran back to the Arizona and tried to lure him away from my base. And after some attempts, it finally worked. After that little adventure, I gathered even more metal, killed more Dialos, but also attacked Parasaur for extra material. And as the day got to an end, I crafted myself a metal hatchet. I wanted to get a better, stronger defensive mount early on. Sadly, I couldn't find any that were friendly and passively tameable. But after a little while, I stumbled upon some rich metal nodes and crystal, gathered a huge amount of them, and then went back to base cause it got very foggy and rainy. I've made an awesome spyglass. Then I saw a level 174 Arizona, but I wasn't quite sure if it was the same I lured away, so I kept running. Later I found a Brontoscorpio core, so I harvested it to get some really good stuff from it, such as chitin organic polymer. Then not far away I spotted a gigantic Spinosaurus. These boys with big spikes, but it would have taken a lot of berries to tame this thing passively, so I didn't since the day was almost over. Then however I saw a red panda and started taming it, killed some unwanted guests nearby, and when he was mine I went back to base as the sun settled down. At the start of day 4 I crafted up some cementing paste in order to make a meat spoiler from the Ultra Stacks mod, and it does exactly what the name suggests. I placed it and started to spoil some raw meat. In the meantime, I gathered some more narco berries with Timmy, made some narcotics and crafted up some trank arrows, cause I wanted that 174 Arizonasaurus. One of those things early on would protect me against a lot of stuff, to be honest. I crafted some stone structures for a small simple trap. I placed the trap, lured the creature into the trap and tried to knock her out. But it was that moment where I realized I didn't have any prime meat, so I just gave her normal meat. The next day she was finally tamed, and I named her Sally. Yes, I know, very creative names here. Threw the saddle on her and started to kill some creatures, and I gotta say, Sally is amazing. Strong, good attack speed, movement speed, and she provides me with insulation. After some jungle exploration, I went into the hunter cave for some easy chitin and maybe even loot. But, well, after a very nasty discussion with some Arthros and the destruction of all my armor, I decided to rather leave and come back another time. Sally was not strong enough yet. Then, after some more running, I got an explorer node and killed some more stuff, but sadly, the footage was laggy for some reason. I continued to walk even further and found a 156 Suchomimus. I knew I wanted that thing as fast as possible, but I took a quick turn instead, ran up the hill and gathered even more metal. Then lastly, went back to base before the night. But around 2 AM I found a good level baler on the way home, knowing one of them would be very useful in my current situation since they can harvest fiber, so I started passively taming her, but of course a stupid Dialo attacked and ruined the taming process when she was almost done. I killed the Dialo and some more that were too close for my taste. After a little while the baler was tamed, I named her Barbara and brought her back to base. Once there we went on a fiber harvest frenzy. Honestly, balers are just one of those things you should tame early on. Back at base again, and I crafted a preserving bin, made some flak gear for more protection, but I saw that I needed a haircut as well, so I went back to the hunter cave for some obsidian, but of course an alpha raptor was blocking my way, so I decided to run away again. I needed a stronger creature to take on that alpha raptor, so I started to prepare myself to tame the Suchomimus. I gathered even more fiber and narco berries with Barbara. I'm sorry Timmy, but you just got replaced. I made even more arrows and trank arrows, gathered some stone, thatch, and made structures for a simple trap. Later that day I went back to the Sucho and placed the trap. Of course he was in the water fighting against some fish, but that didn't matter. I was still able to get him into the trap, closed everything up, and bam, he couldn't run from his fate. I grabbed my crossbow and pummeled the Sucho with trank arrows until he fell asleep. And lastly, before the day ended, I went back to my base again to get some prime meat. It was already day 8 once I got back to the Sucho and gave him the long-awaited prime meat. Then I waited until this big boy was tamed. As soon as he woke up, I gave him the name Simon, cause it seemed fitting. I put him into a soul ball I crafted earlier and ran back to base where I gave Simon his saddle. Now it was time to test him out by taking care of the surrounding wildlife. He was actually pretty strong for not being a good level, but oh man, it felt good to have such a big and strong creature so early on. I mean, it's only day 8. I was looking around the jungle cause I wanted to take care of that mean alpha raptor who blocked my path of getting a haircut. But I couldn't find him and fought a Herrerasaurus instead, and oh man, their venom is no joke. But then I found the alpha raptor again and attacked without any mercy. Lured him back to the lake to gain more strength, and Simon got really bloody. But in the end, the raptor was the one who died, and it even gave me a good metal pick. I proceeded to explore the island even more and found some very dangerous and pretty big stuff. Day 9, I went towards the snow biome to gather some oil. Why? Honestly, I can't remember exactly why I needed or wanted oil. I think it was for the preserving bin or something. Once I arrived at the snowy beaches, I spotted not 1 but 2 origin dragons. Since Simon was not strong enough to fight either of them, I went into the freezing water and swam around. Luckily my red panda kept me alive with its health regen buff. I found the oil nodes, harvested a bunch of them, and after some time I had up to 1000 oil in my pockets. Then I wanted to go back home, but also decided to get some pelt while I was still here. So I took care of some mammoths, found a Yudi corpse near low-level woolly brekkie that I killed as well, but sadly they don't give you fur. I picked up the Yudi lungs as well, opened up another candy drop, it gave me some meat and a skull mask, also gathered some more obsidian nearby and then went back home. I spent the early morning of the next day looking around for some loot drops, but was only able to find the Halloween ones. Later I found another bone raptor and slapped the crap out of it. It gave me a pretty decent bow actually. Later in the dark green underbrush of the jungle I spotted a level 168 Gigatitan. Yes, a giant flying mantis, which would be a pretty useful tame at this point, not gonna lie. but I didn't have my taming supplies with me, so I went back to base to quickly grab them. On the way to my base, however, I found a low-level Anzuak, so I grabbed it, knowing it will be pretty useful sooner or later. I picked up the taming trap I used on Simon and made some more Trank arrows, went back to the Giga Titan, placed the trap, lured her inside and proceeded to knock her out. And she finally fell asleep shortly before midnight. As the sun went up in the morning of day 11, the Giga Titan was mine and I named her Bronze. I put her into a soul ball and got back to base yet again. Gave this beauty a settle and went on a little test run. Now that I had a flyer, everything was much easier. Honestly, these things are just amazing, capable of dealing good DPS, bleeding and slowing down targets with spores as well. After killing some Brontos and Bone Trikes, I observed the world from the sky, looking around what kind of deadly creatures I could find. I went all the way over to the volcano and then saw a Binturong, a creature that would inevitably be one of the most useful tames ever, capable of draining food of wild critters. So I tamed him up and then continued to check out the area. Later I found a high-level Giga in the mountains, but I kept my distance. Near the end of this day I hatched the Anzuak, didn't get a single imprint sadly, but I mean, that's not a problem since their job is to give babies imprints. I named her Mary and named my Binturong Pringles. Day 12 was moving day. I crafted some wooden structures, picked up the most important things, put all my critters into soul balls and then went to my future base spot. Yes, it was this giant grassland near the red obelisk. After taking out some annoying critters, I then needed to lure the Titanosaur away from this area, and after a little while it got stuck between the cliff and a tree. Okay, Ark, just keep ignoring physics, I guess. Anyway, I placed down the structures I've brought with me, threw out my creatures and gathered a lot of fiber with Barbara. But I didn't want to start with my base building as of right now, so I went all the way over to the Hunter Cave and even inside it with Bronze. And let me tell you, she's amazing for caves. After some insect slaughter, I reached the Hunter artifact and went out of the cave as soon as I grabbed it. On the way to my scrap base, I found a good level Plateosaurus and wanted to tame it, but it was very close to a strong Dinochirus, so I knew I had to be quick about it. I starved it down using the right-click attack of Bronze, and shortly after that, the Plateo was mine. I only tamed him up because of the simple reason that he makes narcotic in his inventory. In the middle of the night I was just flying around, looking for some decent quality loot drops and perhaps a stone or wood harvester. While I was hovering above the redwood, I heard a loud noise and spotted a max level Yateveo, aka giant messed up boss plant. There was no way I could fight this overgrown cactus, so I continued my search. I also killed another bone raptor shortly after and got a ascendant metal hatchet from it. During the sunrise I came across a pair of aggros. One was level 120, the other was 174, but I wasn't prepared or higher level enough to tame this thing. But then no matter where I looked in the mountains or the ice biome, I couldn't find a good Dodig or mammoth. So once I was back at base, I gathered a bunch of wood, thatch and stone with my hatchet, made some stone foundations and started to think about the rough concept of my base. In the middle of building I also tamed an Androsarchus that was always around my tames. Why? Don't really know. And by the end of the day I had a basic ground foundation placed for my future house. On day 14 I went into the sky with Bronze again and checked the Redwood Mountain for some mineral harvesters, but there was nothing good. Near the frozen tooth something big in the sky scared me. It was an atmospheric jellyfish. My recommendation, do not touch them. I continued my search at the volcano and found a level 162 pure Totokage in Halloween colors. These things are incredible for mineral harvesting. So I went into the volcano to get some crystal for the pure. I tried to speed up the taming of this lady using Bronze, but it didn't really work. And then I did stupid. I got distracted by an ear raider. I wanted it for some early cave adventures, And after some time I got it into a simple trap and then started taming up the pure child. Me not smart, I know. I still tried to cheese it with bronze, but it wouldn't work, and after taking care of an alpha Carno, which gave me a better crossbow, I then decided to use Pringles instead. The next morning, after a long and fightful night, this picky lady was finally tamed, and I named her Pumpkin. I checked on the aerator only to figure out that he was gone, so all this bullshit earlier was for nothing. Only a few minutes later, I spotted a very high level event colored RG, so I knocked him out and tamed him up for fun. Back at base, I used my new pumpkin to harvest a lot of stone and even wood, and trust me, I mean a lot. And lastly, I was just crafting up some structures for my base, and by the end of day 15 my ground foundation looked like this. So from day 16 till 18 I did nothing else but gathering resources, crafting structures and building my base. And by day 18 the exterior of my base was actually done. Of course, then I placed some forges, smithies, storage boxes, S+ crafting station, modern pestles, upgrade station and preserving bins inside my new house. I finally got to the point where I got myself a fabricator and placed it in the crafting area as well. The rest of the day I wanted to level up my character, since I wanted to go into the ocean for silica pearls and deep sea drops as soon as possible. To do so I opened another explorer node, killed a bone Carno, got some decent stuff from it, including a Mastercraft crossbow, and simply continued to slaughter. I made scuba gear, jumped on Simon and headed straight into the ocean, where I fought against the typical ocean stuff, and by the end of the day I was only able to pick up a few silica pearls. The next day just started, and I was already back at base. Let me go into the wild sea once it's daytime. For some reason I got myself a chibi Pronosuchus from somewhere, and I equipped it. It was also time to actually industrialize my base. And after some resource organization, I crafted an industrial grill. Now it was time to make some good freaking food. I also crafted a long neck rifle and some ammo as well. After that, a fridge was placed near the grill. My kitchen was slowly taking form actually. I made a generator, I jumped back into the ocean to finally get some more pearls, but I came across a 180 Archelon instead, and decided to tame her up with some biotoxin I had left. After a little while, she was fully tamed up, and as soon as I gave her a saddle, we were ready to kill some jellies. And let me tell ya, these things are amazing at that. But it got very foggy yet again, so I went back to my base and let the bintrunks breed, and thanks to my Anzu, the babies got 100% imprints in no time. The next day I gathered lots and lots of narco berries with my plateau. After making some taming equipment, I went into the Arctic biome for an Ankylosaurus and spotted a soul of the second lieutenant, aka Mini Ice Titan, which are very strong fellas, not gonna lie. After gathering a bit of fur from mammoths, I continued my journey to find a high-level Ankylosaurus. I just wanted one of those creatures cause they are amazing for caves. I found a 170 Megatherium instead, and I knew I will tame that at one point for the swamp cave. And then I found a level 168 Ankylosaurus. But instead of luring it into a trap, I let it fall down between these icebergs, and everything went pretty smooth. But then of course it ran into the water, and I couldn't get it out. I tried my best to get it out, but no, this thing was gone now. So I spent the rest of the day looking for a different Anteo, and after some time I spotted a 156 with event colors at that. But I didn't want it to tame such a low level, so I kept looking around. Yes, I can be very picky when it comes to creatures. I went back to the level 156 Anteo to tame it. I placed the trap and lured the Anteo inside, knocked her out and used my Pringles to starve her down. Honestly, Bintus are just amazing. Once back at base, I made a saddle for her and some grappling hooks for me. It was time to go into the artifact of the Devourer cave with my new Anteo. And yes, she actually sets creatures on fire by simply taking the physical hits. This phenomenon is due to a chemical inside of her blood which burst into flames once exposed to air. This also cauterizes her wounds pretty much instantly, allowing her to regenerate health much faster than other creatures. After I plowed straight through some nasty cave crawlers, I finally reached and grabbed the artifact by the end of the day. Day 22, I sadly forgot to press the record button, but I didn't really do much on that day, to be honest. I just made some narcotic, was flying around for loot but couldn't really find anything. But yet again, I'm sorry that I didn't record it that day. As mentioned, we didn't do much there. Day 23. I was just flying around, looking for some strong critters I could use in the monkey fight, and found a level 174 Dinocyrus, but it's no use if I can't find a high level female. And also, I lost my red panda. Yep, I had no idea where she was. She was gone after day 22. However, close to the Dinocyrus I spotted a high level red panda, so I raided the beaver dams nearby for some rare flowers and tamed him up. Gave him a helmet for more protection, gave myself a haircut after all these days. I went on a mineral run, yet again with Pumpkin, and gathered tons of stone and also metal on the small hill near my base. I rolled all the way to the redwood and gathered even more metal I needed for a better forge. After crushing some metal and crystal alike into dust, I saw a level 198 Emilan Toka. If I could find a male, I'd be settled for the monkey fight actually. I quickly killed a nearby Spino for its sale and continued my journey, and then I found it. A male level 198 Emila. And I knew my monkey problems are solved. But a pack of Amphicyans attacked and even dismounted me. For the rest of the day, however, I was building a small platform for a greenhouse and connected it to the ocean. I finally finished the pipe system of my greenhouse. I placed more crop plots and all the greenhouse structures as well. Found and tamed myself a decent piggy. Laced a compost bin, and after that I made some more trank arrows, and it was about damn time we tamed those two Emilas. The male was quite tricky actually. He didn't want it to go into the trap at first. After some time though, he was finally trapped. But, well, his health was not looking too sharp. I tried to feed him a corpse, but it didn't work. So I let him out of the trap, and only then he wanted to eat a corpse for some reason. I replaced the trap and lured him back into it. Finally knocked him out. Once he was tamed, I checked out his stats, and they looked pretty good actually. The next day I wanted to tame the female Emila, and after taking care of some unwanted visitors, I slowed her down, placed the gates around her, and then it was pretty much like the taming process of the male. So I had to release her, feed her a corpse, and lure her back in. And wait, is that an alpha over there? Well, it's gone now. I knocked the Emila out and tamed her up really fast. After that, I decided I need something better than shit. So I went into the hunter cave, again, for a beetle. I killed some other insects with my Anteo, found a dung beetle, tamed it, and named it Crab. Very creative, I know. I walked deeper into the cave in the hope of finding a second beetle, but then this funny thing happened. Yes, I got jumped by a almost max level Nigerian fire spitter. Sadly, it's an adult, cause you can only tame the babies, but luckily for me, Anteos are fireproof. And after that hot encounter, I went straight out of the cave and back home. Day 27, my greenhouse started to pay off, and I already got some crops ready. I placed a Emila taxidermy outside of my house as well for more decoration. Sadly, I was not able to make their saddle yet. I also wanted to finally make myself a industrial forge, but I still needed more resources. The usual stuff like metal, polymer, etc. Since I had to wait for more metal ingots, I went all the way to the snow biome to kill some penguins. I could have really used an Australovenator for this, but of course I couldn't find any good level ones. So I gathered polymer with bronze, and that's all I did. Still didn't have enough polymer and cementing paste, so I went to the volcano, gathered obsidian, and to make more polymer. Back at my crafting room, I finished the last row of polymer and was finally ready to make an industrial forge. Only problem was, it couldn't fit in my base without looking stupid, so I made a small platform outside and placed the forge on that. And now it was time I tame myself that Samosaurus I saw a couple days ago. I lured him out of the water and then started taming him with biotoxin. His food was drained by a huge amount for some reason. Also, you gotta be careful when taming these things, since there's a chance that they enrage once you give them the toxin or angler gel, so I always had Simon next to me. And in the rainy, early morning of day 29, the Simo was tamed. Back at base, I waited for the sun to rise and then went back into the ocean, and yes, she's not the strongest or fastest, but she's still useful. Very useful indeed. I mean, just look at those amount of pearls. Look at them! I cleared the ocean floor of pearls and then tested out the Samo's flashover ability, but I pushed the flashover meter to 100%. Now the Samo was stronger and faster, but after a little while the power was gone and she had a hangover, being much slower and weaker than before, but I still made it back safely. I tamed a max level concave anteater that was just chilling outside my base and named her Katie. She might be pretty useful at one point, who knows. After taking care of some unwanted guests in my grassland, gathered a huge amount of wood and turned it into charcoal. I also needed a flint harvester since gathering it by hand is not really working for me. After a little while I spotted a discount theory that would solve my flint problems, but I needed honey to tame him up fast, so I went to a nearby beehive and picked some honey. And the next day I started taming the theory that skipped every day at the gym, named him Freddy. Once he was tamed, went back home, but spotted a level 180 Rhizodus, a creature that will be very useful for me. But first I slapped some rocks with Freddy and gathered a good amount of flint with him. Tamed another Binturong, named her Betty, and finally my fluffy army was growing. For the rest of the day I was just killing stuff with my Anteo. Day 32, I was gathering and making stuff for a chemistry bench. On my way to the snow biome for oil I spotted another giant scorpion and waited for it to perish so I can get more chitin and polymer. I reached the oil nodes, but this time I brought Pumpkin with me. I looked towards the blue orb, knowing it was only a handful of days left before we faced the monkey. I proceeded to slap more oil rocks and penguins that were too unlucky. After I thought I had enough oil, I was looking for a better flyer just in case, but I found a yellow drop with an insane long neck rifle inside. Later I found and killed a Thyla for its claws, and at the end of this day I was finally able to make a chemistry bench. Now the real grind can begin. On day 33 I went from drop to drop but couldn't really find anything good. I know armor is armor, but still. The second drop however had a decent Megatherium saddle. I found a good mammoth saddle, and on Monster Island I killed some stuff for some good pants. After that I clapped 2 more Alpha Raptors and they both gave me shitty loot. After putting away the loot, went to the clever artifact cave, plowed straight through everything inside and claimed the artifact. On the way home however I spotted a high level Mothman, but sadly it got very dark again and I was not high enough level to tame it anyway. The next day I went on a little killing spree in the redwood because there was way too much stuff for my taste. I destroyed Parasaurs, Brachy's and Bone Postosuchus and of course the usual redwood critters. After that small adventure I grabbed more honey from my local beehive, went all the way over to the snow biome and tranked out that 174 Megatherium. And oh my god, this rifle is strong, and with the help of bronze I proved once again that Giga Titans are way too useful for taming. I found a female 174 Megatherium and decided to tame that as well. Now hear me out, I don't want to tame these things for the spider fight since mammal breeding takes too long. I'll just want an imprinted one for the swamp cave. After she was tamed, I kept looking for a good flyer, but couldn't find anything. And for the end of that day, I went into a cave, killed everything inside, did some cryopod and grappling hook action, and reached the artifact of the pack shortly before midnight. On day 36, I wanted to tame a Abyssal Cephectinus. Since they spawn near the beach, it was really easy to find them, but most of them were either low level or had crappy stats, and I wanted a good one, of course, for deep sea loot crates. I spotted a Gigantophis, but sadly it died. I also spotted a Hanaria, but it was low level. I continued my search the next day and actually found and knocked out a 174 Sif, with good stats as well. But of course I forgot my Binturong. Anyway, after killing some more monsters, I saw a high level male Sif that I knocked out as well. I mean, any imprinted creature is always welcome. After I got both of my fishy friends tamed, I made an S+ ocean platform for them. Tried to figure out a good place for it, so I placed it in the small bay near my house. At the end of the day, I found another decent level Anzuek. I rolled at Mach 3 towards the volcano to collect more obsidian.
I'm fast as fuck, boy!
And made even more polymer for a cooker. I was also finally able to give my Emila saddles, and after I placed more pipes, I placed my cooker in my kitchen, and that was essentially all I did for this day. Day 39 I went back to my beach bob roots and tamed a bunch of dodos. Why? Well, to get some easy eggs for a hatchery, of course. The Emilas won't breed by themselves. Or maybe they will. Anyway, after I had all the eggs, I made a hatchery and then started building the so-called baby blender. And yep, it's exactly what it sounds like. And yes, I know it doesn't look as good as my base, but it was efficient. And from now on, it was about time that we start breeding. The next day, I placed air conditioners, a generator and some lights at the breeding pen to make it nice and romantic. I wanted to make a tree platform as well for tree sap, but only ended up making the sap traps, since I can just stand on the back of bronze mid-air. After I placed the sap traps, I saw a okay-ish level Gigantoraptor, and I still needed a honey harvester, so I knocked her out, and once she was tamed, used her to gather some honey nearby. Thanks to their large size, it is much easier to reach the beehives. Well, most of them. I started to get stuff for a domesticated beehive. I went into the swamp and gathered tons of rare flowers, crafted a beehive and placed it. Then I saw a good level female red panda and tamed her up really quick. The rest of the day was hatching Emilas, but sadly none of them had good stats. Day 42. This day was about to be a lucky one. While I was waiting for more Emila eggs, I was looking around for a better, faster flyer and maybe some others to tame. I came across a high level Harpagornis, which is a really fast RGA pretty much. After some chasing, I finally knocked it out, and then almost max level pig showed up, so I knocked it out as well. I then gathered tons of prime meat since I didn't brought anything with me. After the harper and the piggy were tamed, I kept my eyes open for an ovis, and actually found one. Tamed it up, went back to base, and that was essentially it. Next day, I was just flying around with my new Harpagornis, and these boys are just fast. Fast is the best definition for this critter. It was near the mountains after some genocide where I found a max level male Harpagornis. After going back to base, I grabbed some taming food and bronze for taming this speedy boy. After a very annoying chase sequence, I KO'd it, stuffed some meat inside, waited, and by the end of the day I had a breeding pair of super RGs. In the dark night of day 44 I found an absolute incredible good bonk stick of death. Time to shine in melee combat, I guess. During the sunrise I bred up harpers. I wanted an imprinted one for better damage, better stam, and general better everything. Before that I hatched the other Enzo egg I still had and named the Enzo Mark. I hatched another Emila egg and she had some of the good stats. I brought her up to marry and she took care of the rest. A couple of eggs later I got another female Emila with all the good stats. So I switched the other female with this one. From now on I kept an eye open for level 321s. In the meantime I hatched some Harper eggs and actually got one with a melee mutation. I claimed him and named him Stolas. Stolas was fully grown and I went on to the usual leveling run, you know, doing the usual kind of stuff, but after some stronger and nasty opponents he was really low on health, so I made some pet food kibble for my pig and started healing up Stolas. However, after that I did something completely unrelated. I went into the easy water cave, spotted and killed an alpha megalodon, which didn't give me anything nice. Once I was in the artifact room, I opened up a red loot crate and it had some ridiculous metal pants and a Rex saddle in it. After that, I stole the artifact of the brute and went back home and placed the artifact in my house. Day 46, I hatched even more Emila eggs. Got a level 318 male, but I said screw this. Only one stat is bad, so I claimed him and got rid of the rest of the eggs. Later, a good level Chupacabra was very close to my base and I kinda wanted it. Why? No reason really. I grabbed some leech blood, combined that with my own and made carnal blood packs for the blood-sucking cryptid. Once tamed, I tested him out. It's just a speedy bleeder, but his jump was amazing. Oh yeah, I also named him Perry for no reason. The rest of the evening I looked around for Spinos since I still needed 2 more sails. The next day I got the sails I needed, got some loot I never used and cleared out Monster Island. While the new Emilas were making more eggs, I grabbed Raven and went to, you guessed it, the Hunter Cave yet again. Oh yeah, forgot to say this, I actually named my entire Raven. This time I went to this cave however for Megalania Toxin. It was needed to fight the monkey. Day 48, I found a okayish level Yudi, but I still tamed it up since I needed one for the boss fight. I named her Dimitrescu. I went on to yet another medal run and, well, from this point till day 50, I did nothing else but hatching Emilas, raising them, leveling, and upgrading their saddles. Day 50 was the day where we wanted to fight our first boss. But first I needed some more Thyla claws, and thanks to my smooth brain, I always forgot something on the way to the obelisk, like certain apex drops, grabbed the wrong boss tributes, and even forgetting to level up my Yudi. But after that havoc, I still made it to the Blue Orb, released my army of fucked up Styrax, and it was about time we faced the first Guardian. Battle was over pretty quickly actually. My Emilas only had mere flesh wounds, and as soon as I was back at base I placed the monkey flag at his head with pride. Oh hey, if you're still here and watching the video, why don't you do me a favor and like, subscribe and maybe ring the bell? It really does help me out. Thank you. The next day, I placed some more decoration in my base in the form of a stuffed monkey. I hatched another Emila egg, claimed one of them and named him Spike, the other one... Spike will be my personal ground mount, but before I could use him to rip and tear, I wanted to build a small safe space for Mark on the ocean platform. I started breeding the Sifs, made a second hatchery and placed it on the ocean platform. 90% of day 52 I did nothing else but obliterating the local wildlife with Spike. We ravaged across the landscape, killing most critters from small to massive, to a point where in the middle of nowhere we decided to take a small break. Once at my base I started to crack open some fish eggs and even got a beautiful white color mutation, so I named her Ghostfin. After not one but 2 small resource runs, I tamed a small Psittacosaurus and named this cute fella Venom. Later that day I wanted to go into the ocean with Ghostfin in order to find some deep sea loot crates, and after some leveling it was about time to go into the deeper regions of the ocean. but I couldn't really find any loot crates. I had the same luck the very next day. Not a single deep sea loot crate was in sight, but I kept looking, but still nothing. Did I really just wasted almost 2 days looking for nothing? Yes I did, and I hate it. Anyway, the next day I wanted to tame that 180 Rhizodus. I already made enough trank ammo and structures for a simple trap. Now you might be thinking, Rector, your spyglass clearly tells you that these things are not tameable, but they are. Allow me to explain. In order to knock them out, 2 conditions must be met. First, they must be in water, swimming to be more specific. Second, they have to be inflicted with a corrosive acid debuff, which only KD was able to inflict upon them. And only then will they become vulnerable towards trank darts. I trapped the fish and did everything I just mentioned. But then I realized they only eat extraordinary kibble, so I went back to base, jumped on Stolas and was looking for a male Yuri. I didn't care for the level, but then I saw this. A level 174 male Yuri, and I knew exactly I needed that, not just right now, but later as well. Killed his Carnivores, and then he was actually trapped between 2 rocks, so I took full advantage over that. Tamed him up, got him back to base and started breeding these giant chickens. Of course, I watched. While waiting, I kept an eye on the Rhizodus. I didn't wanted her to lose food all the way down to 0. I placed another hatchery yet again just in case. During egg production, I was just looking around for a good level male Rhizo and actually found one, but in a really bad area. And, well, after some waiting and egg snatching, I was finally able to make enough kibble for this river monster. I flew as fast as I could towards her, checked several times if everything was clear just in case. I didn't want anything to mess this up. I gave her the kibble, unsurprisingly of course, she tamed up within a few seconds. This river monster was finally mine. I repaired some parts of the trap and for some reason this stupid meter wouldn't go away. But after some tomfoolery, it disappeared. I put the Rhizo next to the sieves, realizing I needed a second ocean platform. I wanted to make one the next day, but there was some sad news. Honeybeak and Sally were both gone. They got removed in a mod update. Oh well, I guess we had to lose at some point, right? I went on, you guessed it, yet another medal run. Killed some allos in the progress to grab their juicy brains. At my base I made more darts, kibble and structures for the male Rhizodus. Taming him went almost as good as the female, but with 2 major twists. I had to kill more bystanders and got him into the trap literally at the end of the day. Once he was tamed and at my base, I made a second ocean platform and connected that one to the first one I've made. After some adjustments, the Rhizodus were breeding and I left them alone with their little wet adventure. I made some honey-glazed strawberries. Not for the Rhizodus romantic atmosphere of course, but for a high-level Archaeoendris. Tamed him and named him Julian. And these things can, well, yeet different projectiles and their accuracy is pretty good. If I could get more, they would be a pretty nice base defense actually. Day 60, the Winter Wonderland event just started, and I just wanted to meet Raptor Claus, but well, he was just too fast, so I opened some presents he left instead. They gave me some okay-ish stuff, some chibis, coal, but also some good ghillie boots. Gacha Claus, on the other hand, only gave me chibis and candy. Well, at least my hatcheries look nicer now. The entire rest of the day I was just hatching Rhizo eggs. Got 1 male with all the good stats, the rest of the eggs, well, I got rid of them, if you know what I mean. In the evening I tested out the Rhizodus, and let's be clear, they are not just river monsters, they are leviathans, by all means. It's funny how one of those things made all my sieves pretty much useless. After bloody battles with some ocean giants and of course intense leveling, I started to heal my fish. While I was healing him, I had a funny idea. What if I use an army of them in the Broodmother and Dragon Boss fights? I'm just saying. 60% natural armor plus fire resistance and mate boost. These massive fish fillets would rip and tear through those guardians. Sadly, they couldn't get UD boosted though. Anyway, after good M was fully healed, I went back into the sea, killed an alpha lead and 2 alpha mechs. Only one of them gave me good loot. I also hatched a female Rhizo with all the good stats. Day 62 I went through the savage taming process of the mighty Lucanidae. But it took a lot of time until he was fully tamed, since you can only craft the worst taming food for them in your inventory. The better stuff can only be crafted in their inventory. Anyway, in the meantime I hatched my first Rhizo egg from the good breeding pair, named her Terraphin, and she will be my main mount for the hard water cave. I grinded some fish eggs with Terraphin in order to give her a ton of easy levels. It also took almost half a day until the Lucanidae was tamed, and I used him to, well, suplex Santa and harvest a little bit of wood. And with a little bit, I mean a huge, godly amount of it. After derooting an entire forest, I spent the rest of the day committing war crimes against both underwater and land creatures with Terraphin. The next day, I wanted to go into the difficult water cave, but before that I healed up Terraphin and later killed 1 alpha Karkar and 2 alpha Nasudos. It took some time, but it was worth it. As soon as I entered the cave, a lot of megalodons said hello, so I accepted their welcome with my teeth. More mechs showed up, I demolished those too. The squids and Moses as well suffered the same fate. The only tough thing to kill was an alpha mech and an entire swarm of dunkles. Honestly, it's easy to understand why Rhizites are just so utterly good for this cave. I reached a narrow tunnel which led to the artifact of the cunning, but there were tons of other critters, including another alpha mech. I ignored them, swam right past all the danger, reached the artifact, and then went out of the cave as fast as I could once I grabbed it. I proceeded to keep the ocean clean, so I got rid of quite a few critters, including another Tusosaurus arms, another alpha mech, but it didn't give me anything nice. So I went into the easy water cave again, and actually found an amazing compound bow blueprint, but that's a lot of polymer I'd need. After I left the cave, I engaged combat with an alpha Moser. Of course, it didn't stand a chance, but sadly it didn't give me anything thrilling. This day was yet another loot day, and the only thing I've got that's worth mentioning was a pike and a compound bow, but it wasn't as good as the blueprint. Continuing my search for good loot, I found an alpha Carno, and I knew I still needed Carno arms for the Overseer cave, so I killed the Carno just in case. Way later, I colored my armor. It was about time I do that, and I was finally back in my Arc Rector colors. All my creatures were still breeding on day 67, so I started with the sloth breeding as well. After 10 minutes, babies were born, and of course they got the bad stats combined. I should just kill them. Nah, I'm just kidding. Look at those colors. Since I wouldn't use them in the boss fight, I didn't care about their stats at all. After one of them was fully grown, I came up with the perfect name. Since he was male, hairy and cyan, I named him Syntek.
Why you boring me? I'm right.
As the sun settled, I placed even more taxidermies in the front of my base. At day 68, it was about time to enter the most toxic place in Ark. And I don't mean an official PvP server. The Swamp Cave in the Redwoods, of course. After turning hundreds and hundreds of bugs into paste, I had to dismount and cryo-Syntek in order to get into the other room unharmed, but got leeched as soon as I entered. And after some more insect genocide, I found the artifact of the immune and claimed it. Me and Syntek tried to get out of the cave the same way we came in, but he was a tiny bit too chunky. I placed the artifact and harvested a huge amount of rare mushrooms using my oversized beetle. Day 69. A certain green Rex might tell you it's the best day, but not for me, since I had to enter the Skylord Cave, one of the worst caves on the island. I grabbed my best bong stick and headed out. Once there, I received a warm welcome from some bats. My shotgun didn't really do good against them, so I meleeed my way through. Red Panda for the win, by the way. After I sliced and diced through all those nasty cave critters, I finally reached the artifact room, and it was actually there. After dealing with 2 more bats, I grabbed the artifact and ran as fast as I could. Once placed in my base, I spent the rest of this lovely day gathering more metal. I spent the entirety of day 70 hatching a couple rhizo eggs, gathered some chitin with Syntech, leveled one of my boss rhizos to a point where I was happy with the stats, and that's all I did. From day 71 to day 73 I did nothing else but hatching rhizo eggs, leveling them up, crafting up cementing paste for the saddles, and also upgrading them as well. I healed up all of my rhizodus. My fish army was ready for some blood. I realized I would still need at least an imprinted Daedon just in case. So in the afternoon of day 73 I looked around for a female Daedon and actually found a really good one. So of course I tamed her up and got her back to base. I started the next day with upgrading Raven's saddle. Why? Pretty simple. I wanted to go into the lava cave to get the artifact of the Massive, and Raven would be the best bet. Once I was in the cave, Raven's hibernation kept me safe from the extreme heat, and after some hot arguments with bats and bugs, I nearly fell into a lava pit, but still managed to continue my search for the artifact. Which, after some bullets, roasted insects, and grapples, I actually reached. I still required the artifact of the strong, so I walked into the freezing narrow ice cave, said hello to 2 friendly Herbivores in the entrance, and once everything was clear I threw out Spike, my best option in this damn cave due to his damage buff towards mammals. After I disemboweled some bears and yetis, I walked deeper into the cave. I simply wanted to stay clear of those damn Herbivores above ground. As long as I don't attack them, their underground buddies won't mess with me either. After lots and lots of bear, wolf and yeti destruction, I actually got a decent sword blueprint. But I gotta be honest here, I hate this cave. Even close to the artifact room, there were way too many critters in my way, and I didn't want it to piss off the damn badges, so I had to be careful. But finally, after enough carnage, I reached the artifact, lured some badgers into the freezing water, grabbed the artifact, and made it out of the cave on the next day. Yes, I just spent an entire day in one of the coolest places on this map. I finally had all the artifacts required for the last 2 guardians, but I still needed a gigaheart for the dragon boss. I found a low-level one in the mountains, but killing it with stolas was not really working for me. So I tried to bring him down to the ocean, pulled out Terrafin, and started fighting a Giga with a damn fish. The Giga was trying to run away, but I didn't give it a chance to do that.
Get your ass back here, boy!
And after I slaughtered it, I finally had the heart I needed. On day 77 I found a 180 for Sorasuchus, and since the Overseer fight was probably inevitable, I knew an army of those things would perform just perfect, due to their 30% natural armor, good speed and powerful bleeding attacks. But I didn't tame it right away for some reason, so I went back to my base and watched the piggies breed instead. I named the first baby pig Pumbaa, and he already had all the stats I was looking for. Later I killed another Alpha Mauser, but of course it didn't give me anything good. Day 78 I started with the last preparations for the Broodmother boss fight. I leveled up Pumbaa and brought all my Rhizodus to the Green Obelisk. On day 79, I literally only made a few healing potions and some soups. That was essentially it. On day 80, it was time to fight the Broodmother. It was time we faced the giant spider and rip her limb from limb. I had to use Raven as my main mount since, you know, UDs can't boost the fish. I placed the attributes in the terminal and I was ready to enter the boss fight. My Rhizodus did an excellent job, barely taking any damage and just destroying the spider. Slowly but surely, of course. We killed the Broodmother and holy hell, these things barely lost any health. After we teleported out of the arena, I picked up my army and threw them all out on the red obelisk. Healed them up, placed the spider trophy and flag in my house. Day 81, I was more than ready to face the dragon. I entered the boss arena, my fish had to move and the dragon was just raining fireballs at me and my army. His stupid minions destroyed my armor and almost killed me, but only almost. As soon as the dragon landed, my fish started biting his ankles and toes. I could tell he didn't like that at all. I also helped with my shotgun for a bit, but the dragon flew away. His minions came back at me. But once the dragon landed a second time, my Rhizos had enough. And finished him quickly. I was so happy I didn't have to worry about that boss anymore, and of course I placed a taxidermy trophy and flag in my base. I actually felt amazing that we already got so damn far. On day 82 I was preparing for the most important mission on this entire 100 days. I got my resources and tames ready and placed a water tap in my base. And well, after that I found the 180 Fasola again. Took a little while to find him, but I was still able to trap him. Day 83 the Fasola fell asleep and woke up pretty fast actually, and now I had to look for a female one, of course, but let me tell you, the game was kinda like...
No, not you, no.
After camping Monster Island for a little while, I spotted a high-level Soul of the King. I left him alone, maybe I want him sooner or later for some reason. I just smiled at my screen as soon as I saw it. An Alpha Rex, the last Alpha creature I would need to kill for the Overseer boss fight. So on day 84 I went back to the Alpha Rex and killed it with Terrafin. Long live this beautiful fish. I got the Alpha Rex tooth I needed and then simply continued my genocide for the rest of the day with Spike. Today I really wanted to tame that mini King Titan, but he didn't really want to stay in the trap I've placed, but I didn't give up. I wanted the strong boy. After a few close calls, I finally knocked him out. Even kings bow before my power. But I forgot to bring narcotics, so I had to gather a bunch of narco berries to keep this big fella down. Once he was tamed, I named him Goliath, and from now on I would use him to keep this island organized. The following day it was foggy, again, but that didn't stop my endless onslaught. After some time though, I came across an Alpha near Veneto and engaged combat, but well, this thing nearly killed Goliath, but luckily I was able to throw a Terrafin, and she took care of the rest as I was running away. I put Goliath away and later flew around the island to look for a female Fasola somewhere else. I thought Monster Island would be my best bet for them, but anyways, I found a decent level female in the Redwoods at last, and taming her went exactly like the male. Day 87 I only started my Fasola breeding. Oh, also I actually got 2 baby Udis, male and female with the good stats. Now I had to get rid of all the old UDX. Goliath, would you be so kind? Rest of the day I went on a hide and meat run with Goliath. Honestly, it was a lot of fun. I continued my meat run, but also got a way better boomstick blueprint on day 88. I gathered a bunch of stuff again and got a female Fasola with the good stats, and was able to make my boomstick by the end of the day. The next day I finally got a male Fasola Suka's counterpart. I jumped on Goliath's massive shoulders and started to punch metal rocks into dust. Now I had 2 incredible good metal harvesters. Which is better in your opinion? Let me know. Close to the end of the day, the good stat male Fasola was fully grown. As I told them to breed, I hatched a UD egg, and of course she had a beautiful dark red purplish color mutation, and I named her Cherry. From day 90 to day 93 I did the same things over and over again. I hatched and raised Fasolas, leveled them up using the baby blender, and gathered a lot of resources to upgrade their saddles. At day 94 and 95 I only crafted up a good amount of structures and closed up the volcano crater. Just in case. You know, I don't want roasted crocodiles. Day 96, I actually wanted to tame myself a higher level soul of the Sang Lieutenant, you know, the mini Ice Titan. He was a lot easier to trap than Goliath, I must say. After a good amount of darts, he fell to his knees and was ready to chew on some delicious element. I simply wanted one, cause I wanted to use him in the tech cave, if he can fit, of course. Back at base, I demolished some wildlife nearby with the new Ice Titan. Okay, now enough funny business. It was time to do the last preparations for the tech cave and the overseer boss. I made ammo, soups, potions, canteens and extra gear, but of course forgot to make more ghillie stuff. I put my Fasola army Pumba and Sherry into soul balls, went back to the volcano, threw out my crocs and organized their following settings a bit, and lastly looked into the distance to wait for the sun to rise. Not gonna lie, I was pretty nervous when I opened the tech cave. Now was no turning back. Jerry and Pumba entered the tech cave first. My Fasola army followed shortly after. After a lot of cave reloading, pretty much all of my crocs were inside the boiling hot tech cave. I tried to fit Snow Miser in as well, but of course he was too large. And then the entrance almost closed in front of me. Now it was just me, my creatures, and a very long, painful way down to the overseer terminal. Thanks to my Fasolas though, it was pretty easy taking out the creatures that were in my way. I got dismounted by a stupid Microraptor, but luckily that wasn't the end. I continued to use one or more Fasolas to kill and push enemies away. I got dismounted again by a Microraptor, and the Rex was slowly walking towards me, but I was still able to jump back on my Fasola just in time. The best option in this cave is to bring the enemies to you, not the other way around. I used my ranged weapons to lure stuff into the lava, so I wouldn't have to worry about them later. I left my army behind for a bit and walked further into the cave. Pushing some critters into the lava pits was definitely one of the best options I had, but the Theris, oh boy, the Theris were a different story. Breaking my armor and not really taking much knockback. A bit later I got my army pretty far down, but of course I still had to yell at some badges. I saw how some of my creatures almost fell into the lava, so I adjusted their positions just in case. Sometime later I walked into this large area and there was a good amount of stuff to kill, but of course it was a cakewalk for my Fasolas. I did the same things again, luring and pushing stuff into the lava while also bleeding them down. After I cleared the area, I walked further down. With only one Fasola, there were some Microraptors again, but I didn't kill them because I thought they would leave me alone, which was a massive mistake, because only a few seconds later, this happened. And, well, after my body got swallowed whole by that Megalosaurus, everything was over. That stupid Microraptor. I honestly hate these things. That stupid Microraptor just ruined my entire challenge, you know? There's a reason why I hate these things, and honestly, I was a little bit dumb at that point. I was quite nervous to face the Overseer all by myself, because that was the first time I would ever do this stuff. Fighting him entirely by myself. And yeah, here's the fun part. I actually shot at the Microraptor a couple of times, but then thought, you know, he's not running towards me, I can just leave him alone. And of course he didn't do that. Ah, man. I'm pretty sure that even if I had more Fasolas following me further down where that Megalosaurus ripped me to pieces, nothing would have changed. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so that you never miss a video of mine ever again. And I will do more 100 days challenges, definitely. I will work on more. But for now, I'll see you guys in the next video. Have an amazing day and goodbye.